Hi everyone, my name's Chelsea, aka Sunsprin. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm talking about House of the Dragon, HBO's new show set in Westeros. Super excited for this one, guys. Just lovely. First, what I'm going to do is talk about spoiler-free stuff. Just cover like what I think of the actors' performances so far in episode 1. That's all I've seen of it. Today is August 22nd, and it aired last night at 9, so I've only seen the one. And then I will tell you when it's about to get into major spoiler territory, and we'll cover some more stuff. First, episode 1 was called The Heirs of the Dragon, right? And that's definitely what we get a chance to see. Everybody who's vying for that stupid pointy chair again. And let's see. Okay, so the spoiler-free version. This, if you loved Thrones, it's a no-brainer. You're gonna love this. So far, House of the Dragon lives up very well to Game of Thrones. It is dynamic, it's intriguing, dramatic, incredibly violent, and hard to look away from. It's just one of those things you can't look away. Yeah, dark, dramatic. That's what they do best, dramatic. Going over characters for a second, we have, I'm going to start with Rhaenyra. Millie Alcock plays Rhaenyra Targaryen, the younger version anyway, in this story. And as it turns out, she is like scarily good. She kind of, like, I would have picked her for Daenerys in A Song of Ice and Fire. She has the crazy look, like the stone-faced I'll F you up look about her. And that's surprising because she's so young and so clearly youthful. You rarely see like believable badassery just from her eyes, you know, and someone so young. But she's doing a fantastic job portraying one of the younger heirs, potential heirs to the throne. Let's see, we'll look at Daemon Targaryen is played by Matt Smith, and I was a little, worried about that. I've only ever seen Matt as the Doctor, the 11th Doctor. I've seen him in other things, but that's my go-to. I see Matt Smith, I think Doctor Who, and a sweet, kind doctor at that. That is not this character at all, and I was worried he wouldn't maybe be convincingly cruel. We haven't really seen Daemon's rage yet, but Matt is doing a fantastic job of conveying that like sense of arrogance, headstrong, cruelly so at times, but sharp. I'm really enjoying that, and also they've given him a scene that humanizes him a little, which is very unexpected, but I'm glad they're already throwing that in so he doesn't come across like some, mustache twirling, obvious villain or something, because he very much could be considered that. Of course, given the family, that's not uncommon. Who else do we have? We have Alicent Hightower, played at the moment by, what's her name? I didn't write her name down. Sorry about that. Give me one sec. Emily Carey is playing the young version of Alicent, who is convincingly sweet and I'm not sure naive. That's up for grabs, but we haven't seen a lot of her character yet. But she's very much the lady that you would expect from The Hand of the King's Daughter. She's everything you would expect from The Hand of the King's Daughter. Hand of the King, by the way, Otto Hightower, is practically Charles Dance cloned. So that's straightforward enough. Who else do we have to talk about? Oh, Viserys first, right? Viserys Targaryen. I wasn't crazy about that casting decision at first. He seemed too obviously weak, not at all like the other Targaryens we've seen. Even in the previews, he seemed pretty tame, not very, like someone just slapped a blonde wig on him and said, oh, here's a Targaryen. But I'm revising that opinion. I'll get into that in the spoiler part of the review. Let's see, what else do we have? I would just point out that the sets are incredible. The joust has got to be one of the best sets I've ever seen. It was, whoa. Let's just say it does the job, right? So much of it is still dark. It gets on my nerves when everything's like candlelight and torches, even though that's the way it was. Like, we know that's the way it was. We still want to be able to view the episode, HBO. They still have a little bit of a problem with that. Maybe it's my OLED TV, but anyway. But the set design, the costume design, it just doesn't get any better. It's so good that you don't even have to know who the characters are to have an idea of what they're like. With something as simple as a joust. I'll get into that later too, in more depth. But yeah, more intrigue, more incest, probably coming, more thrones. All right. Having said that, we're now entering the spoiler territory. I have watched the first episode. I have read The Princess and the Queen. I did not read The Rogue Prince, but I'll probably run into some of that as well, just talking about Daemon. So here we go. Spoilers in 3, 2, 1. Spoilerland. Okay. This is Fire and Blood. Emphasis on blood, right? That cesarean section without milk of the poppy, or with very little milk of the poppy, scarred me for the rest of my days. I'm gonna wake up screaming every night till I die. That was horrific and absolute, par for the course for Game of Thrones. Let's shock them. Well, it certainly did. That was nasty. And well done. I mean, shock value. I had to get up and leave the room, and I'm not very squeamish. I'm squeamish about a couple of things, and that's amputations without anesthetic, a la Civil War movies. And that specific, like in the same vein, like cutting somebody open slowly, deliberately while they're awake. I can't hang, man. I had to leave for like 15 seconds. I did watch the majority of it. I certainly heard the majority of it. God, how awful. Boy, my brain will be stained with that for a while. Anyway, and the sad thing was, I'm probably the only person that feels this way. I'm almost annoyed at them for cutting the joust and the birth the way they did together, because I would much rather have enjoyed the joust as its own thing. I knew they were going to cut back and forth. I knew it as soon as they entered the joust and he's like, oh, she's gone into her labors or whatever. Of course, they're going to cut back and forth for the dramatic effect and the whole concept, right? Reinforcing women's battlefield is the birthing bed, that kind of stuff. But I would have rather seen the joust in all of its glory separately from that, because it was so horrible. And I was enjoying the joust. It was hard for me to be like, yay, joust, oh my god, oh yay, joust, oh my god, etc. Threw me out. But I don't know how to feel about Viserys the First at this point. That decision that he had to make was legitimately terrible, right? They told him it was either lose her and the kid or cut her open and get the kid and hope that the kid lives. And then it goes sour. Of course, his decision makes no difference anyway. but the way it's done, you know what I mean? Without consulting her, without telling her, without her having any idea, any input on it whatsoever, just horrific. So much worse. I'm just going to put it out here, and I don't care if you agree with me or not. You may not feel this way. Trigger warning for anyone who has sexual abuse in their history. This was far worse for me than watching Sansa get raped. Far and away worse than watching any of that stuff in Thrones. This was the worst thing that Thrones has done from a violence perspective ever. Horrific. You probably think I didn't enjoy the episode. I freaking loved the episode. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10 star-wise, but that was crazy. And for Viserys to make this decision about her, just shows what a crazy person I mean, yes, it's a choice, and he had to make a choice, and it went poorly. And on one hand, you feel very, I feel very sorry for him, legitimately. But also, like, he's crazy. Like, you could tell he's made this woman have like 5 kids. He's not gonna give up. That's his obsession, is the blood and fire and blood. And, you know, well-meaning or not, that is crazy and creepy and awful, just awful. And it just, you know, you felt sorry for him up until that point. He seemed like a decent person, and until that, and then you're like, oh, I don't know, maybe not. And that, I think, is why they cast that actor. He can convey, that's very meaty, right, for an actor to sink their teeth into, having all of that at the same time, carrying all of that at the same time. And the rage against Daemon later, when Daemon makes some ugly comments in a bar. Interesting. All right, getting away from Viserys and that whole incident, talk about the tournament, right? The tournament was spectacular. Just, you know, they understand. HBO and Miguel Sapochnik and everybody on this, Martin, everybody, they understand how to do violence with a point. The violence is rarely divorced from a major, like, not like that, and like the big set pieces, the tournaments, the clashing of men and all of that stuff. They know how to work that for every single angle that they can. They got as much out of that tournament as they could. For example, by the end of the tournament, well, let's just address one moment. We'll just go by a couple of moments, right? When someone wins a bout and they come up and they ask the princess for a favor, and they pick either Rhaenyra or Alicent, you already start to see that that's a political thing, right? Like, it's a joust, it's a thing, but the ladies, Rhaenyra and Alicent, they don't have much of a choice about this. Their role is prescribed. They are supposed to present the favor to whoever wins, no matter who that is, whether they like it or not. And you can already tell that they're being manipulated, and the people who are winning are like kind of poking at someone else in the eye, right, by asking for the favor of a particular person, whether they should pick that person or not. It's very political, and you could just watch everyone's reactions. That's what I love about Thrones. You could just watch this entire thing, and House of the Dragon now too. Watch it all over again and look at different faces and their reactions to things. You can see the alliances started to form. You can see who has a high tolerance for this violent display, who feeds on it, who's annoyed or disgusted by it inside, who's kind of like, oh, I don't know about this, squeamish, who's, you know, like, everything about it. It's just, from the war horses to Daemon's armor, which just conveys everything you need to know about Daemon Targaryen and how freaking terrifying he is to people. Just scary. And to make Matt Smith look scary is no mean feat. Like, they did some work to make him legitimately terrifying, and he is. but the joust does so many things. It sets up political alliances. You get a feel for who's who, you get a feel for the names, you also get a feel for values. Like Rhaenys, the queen who never was, when she's talking to Corlys and she's like, hey, these knights are all green as the spring grass because they've never been in a war. They're like, look at them. They just love this bloodlust stuff because they've never been in an actual situation where they had to fight for their life and be afraid. So there's no fear here. They're just brutal monsters to one another, thinking that this is their glory, right? This is the only field of glory they know. And she's absolutely right. And it's foreshadowing, lots of foreshadowing at the joust of what's going to happen, what's coming up. So anyway, I thought the joust was just spectacular. What else is going on? Rhaenyra, I am a little, I don't remember, I'm a little annoyed. I thought my impression from Princess and the Dragon was that Rhaenyra was loved, like legitimately loved by her father. She was always by her father's side. She was a dragon rider at like 14, and people gravitated toward her. People respected her fearlessness, her bravery, her dedication to her father, her level of education, her the way she spoke to people. That there was a faction that followed Rhaenyra because she's Rhaenyra, not just because, you know, Daemon was the other choice and he's a crazy person, sort of. People were afraid of that. And they seem to play that angle up more. And I'm glad for that, I guess. It makes for more drama, but I kind of go, well, but not really. I would hope that there would be some lords who were like, legitimately, no, we kind of think your daughter is a badass and we'll follow her. Okay, yeah, she's your heir, we'll follow her. And I'd like to see that play out more. Like everyone swore to her at the end of this episode, but we don't really know her yet, and maybe they don't either. And that's how they're going to show us her earning people's respect. That would be good, because I always liked that part about Rhaenyra, and they just didn't get to it. I mean, her father talks to her and starts grooming her, you know, once his son is dead, but that doesn't really count. That doesn't count. All right, so I'm looking forward to that. Matt as Daemon. I really love this scene at the brothel. I wonder where that's going. I don't remember there ever being an angle where like Daemon was impotent, or where Daemon was, I don't know if that was the implication in the brothel when he couldn't, you know, with the whore. But I got the feeling that he's very clearly attracted to Rhaenyra already. And that was handled, I think, really kind of sly. Like, I'm going to bring you a necklace. You're my favorite uncle. Yeah, well, we know what that means in Targaryen terms. Good foreshadowing there. But is Matt Smith's character, that revealed something, right? And like the way that whore told him that he was irreplaceable for the king. And she held him, and I thought that's very special. That's a tender insecurity, you know, of somebody who is an absolute menace, kind of an ass. I say a menace. He's not evil, but he's certainly brutal as hell, ruthless. I liked seeing that vulnerability. I think that humanized him a lot, and for them to do that in the first episode is really great. It's great that he never comes across like mustache twirling, you know, horrible villain of the month, villain of the episode kind of thing. Anyway, thought that was interesting. Let's see, what else do I have? I don't remember Kristen Cole very well from the story. I know he's part of it. I don't remember jack about him, but I'll remember that he whipped Daemon in this one, in the joust. There's a surprise. He's Dornish. So there you go. What else do we got? Oh, right. Alicent is already putting the moves on Viserys the First because her father wants her to go, to his private chambers. I haven't decided whether Alicent knows what she's playing at yet. She seemed very sincere when she showed up and she talked about her mother and said, when my mother died, people just spoke to me in riddles when all I really wanted to hear was, I'm sorry that it happened to you. So I'm sorry. I thought that was very, if that's a lie, if that's a manipulation, then it's so good that I couldn't have seen through it if I were him. I really, in the book that she brought, hey, I know you like this, I'll read from it. And I know her father's trying to get her to do this, right? He's clearly not being subtle about it in any way. Go to the king's private chambers, wear your mother's dress. But she seemed honest enough there. I think I like that too, that it's possible that that relationship develops from a place of there was some honesty there, maybe some genuine emotion as a kernel, right? A nugget of honesty in this web of lies. I like that. That was portrayed really well. She seemed very sweet and genuine. There's one thing that bothered me a little. It started to bother me and then I just dismissed it because it really doesn't matter. It's kind of funny. Clearly they wanted to pay homage to Daenerys because everybody just, I don't know, flipped out when Daenerys went nuts at the end of Game of Thrones. I'm not sure I understand why anybody would even worry about that. Of course she's nuts. If you lived her life, you'd have been nuts too. But the whole, we passed on this legend from heir to heir, from king to heir, through all the Targaryens since Aegon, that one of us is the hero that's going to end the winter, and there has to be a Targaryen on the throne for it to happen. And I'm like, technically though, winter doesn't end with a Targaryen on the throne of any sort, unless you count Jon as king of Winterfell, king of the North at the time, because Cersei is still queen of the Seven Kingdoms or the Six Kingdoms. Well, I guess technically seven. Anyway, she's queen of the Seven Kingdoms when the Night King is killed in Thrones. So that's not accurate. That prophecy's bullshit anyway. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, fine, all the Targaryens knew that there had to be a Targaryen on the throne when the winter comes, right? Because there'll be a horrible winter and only they can do whatever. It's very similar to the Prince That Was Promised and the Azor Ahai prophecies and all the stuff we read in the A Song of Ice and Fire novels, except it's just very explicit, right? There's no coded message. We're not trying to read between the lines of what winter means. He basically just comes out and tells her, hey, one of us needs to be on the throne when winter comes because we're going to save the world, bitch. Okay, that means nothing because it never gets to Daenerys anyway, right? So if they're trying to, I just get the feeling they're trying to make Daenerys seem more important than she really was in that other, in Game of Thrones. Okay, that didn't end well either. I needn't say that didn't end well. Anyway, I think that's all I have for episode 1. It was fantastic. I enjoyed the heck out of that show. And I can't wait to see more of it. And especially when they go from the younger girls to the older actresses halfway through, they're supposed to do that jump in time. That ought to be really fascinating to see if these actresses and those actresses line up in any way, if they're believable, right? Because that's a hard trick to pull off. If other actors are staying the same and just the younger girls are going to grow up, I guess we'll see. All right, that's all I got for tonight. Sunsprint out. Y'all have a good night. Bye.